I know, right? That's what he does all the time. All right. Good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson of the Ring of Hire Show. Hey, back by popular demand. I have Mr. Joel Villa with me tonight. How you doing, Joel?
Whoop, whoop. Doing good, man. Doing good, David.
All right. Tonight's show is really going to stand out tonight. It's 100 top 100 interview questions. We're going to be here for about 3 hours.
Bring it on.
Well, yeah, I told you. I was telling Joel, everybody. See, I'm prepared, man. 100 questions. But you know the drill. We'll be right back after this video. That goes so quick. 55 seconds, man.
Yeah, I love that. I love that video.
Those things are cool. All right, tonight, everybody, it's a great show. A lot of good things. We're going to talk about top interview questions and how you start out with that, right? There's so many, Joe. You know yourself. Things are changing, evolving. I just say, I was telling you before when for interview questions. I think it's changed a lot to where I told you I mean, I look at the resume, but I try to just make it a good conversation about, like, if I'm interviewing you, I try to make it a really good conversation because you're going to tell me everything I need to know, usually within about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as being an interviewee as well, you want to try to make it a conversation too, to help open yourself up along with the interviewer.
It does. And you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for the interviews and all the questions. And I was telling you, I got one book here I had a guest on, 96 interview questions, man. There it is. Look at all those notes, man. Look at all those business cards that are in there.
Yeah.
They were great notes and a thing. But a lot of them, you start out, you get some questions. And, the first one that, it's a behavioral interview question and answer. So tell me about yourself. That, I find myself sometimes I used to mumble on and on and on. It's like, when do you stop? When do you start out with where you've been, where you're working currently, or do you start out, a couple jobs before? What would you say?
I would think, because everybody, when you do your resume too, you always put a thing at the top, kind of like a quick presentation, or even on your LinkedIn profile, you have a quick, brief description of you, what you are. If you can, try to, in my opinion, I think, try to memorize that.
Right.
That out, for myself, 22-year experience of 22-year logistician experience, military trained, heavy on discipline, operational side, and work from there. Obviously, I don't have it memorized because I haven't had to go for an interview for a while. But yeah, try to have that at the top. So when you do it, it should only be about 30, 45 seconds of a brief description of yourself.
Yeah, because it's the same thing when I introduce, I think about when I introduce guests, tell me about yourself. You usually can do that elevator, you want to call it elevator speech within a minute and a half, and you'll have that in there. They were saying here a sample answer. Okay, you're looking for who you are professionally, highlight your competencies, and tell about why you are here. I don't think that would come out. I don't agree with that right away to where I would come out with that answer and say that. The next one is, what are your strengths? This one... It says here, assess your hard skills, assess your transferable skills. Now, that's something new. That wasn't in there before, couldn't it be? And assess your personal traits. So your strengths are not just, I think, like mine, my strength is staffing. But on a personal note, I really enjoy, like we've talked about, leadership. So I really think that's it's a kind of a trick question. I don't know what they want to hear sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think, like, talk about your strengths. I think it's more of personal strengths, what you have, what you can bring to the table for that company as far as your strengths. Leadership being one, military, what is it? What is your strengths? Well, I bring to the table leadership. I'm very good at that. Have discipline. I have military background with discipline. Extremely proactive. There's a lot of stuff you can actually, come out with. I don't want to say they come up with buzzwords or anything, but yeah, you can do that a little bit. I have transferable skills from one operation to another operation. I go from
because it's not talking about your job. You're not really talking about your job as much there. You're talking about your strengths, and I agree with you there. I think that's effective. I think that would work because, like you said, the military background, same thing. But that's always these are common questions that you always get asked. So I really think you need to prepare for that because it says here, sample answer. If you were applying for the position of a customer service manager, this is what it would look like. My strength is patience of solving problems. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, right?
Really good.
Yeah, my strength is patience solving problems because think about it, if you're customer service, you look at even the kids that come, look at them working at Target, Walmart, and they're in customer service up there during Christmas time, and those people are doing returns. Those kids they're young. They have a hard time. They have to listen to these people constantly complain to them and they're upset. But I like that because they have to have patience.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. It says, I also feel that my communication skills, transferable skills are top level. So there's another one, how you would say that communication skills, transferable.
Yep. And a lot of people are definitely looking for the communication skills. So you got to have just in general, you just have to have that communication skills. What we talked about last time when I was on with you, you have to have that face-to-face communication and stuff with it.
With that,
that's transferable skills that, the terms we haven't used before COVID.
No, and it makes sense because then it says my current position as a customer service manager, I was patient. Personal trait enough to turn a toxic work environment into a positive one and create a motivating environment where everyone could work comfortably.
Yeah,
that's a perfect answer.
Yeah. Wow.
If you can remember that one right off the bat, I got to give it to you. And this is why I like reading these because you really, in this one, anybody can Google this top 100 interview questions, and it gives you what I like about it. It gives you what you should say and what you're looking for, and a sample answer to it that would be what you're looking for. So this was my favorite. I don't know about you, but can you tell us about your weaknesses?
That's a good one.
I don't like it. I never liked that one because go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. Let me cut you off. But no, I like that one because it makes you have to think about yourself. Nobody likes to talk about their weaknesses like you're talking about. No one likes to do that. But I've noticed interviewers love to bring up that question. One is just when we were talking about earlier, I talked about the pizza toppings. It throws you off. It can knock you off balance. And the interviewer can look at this and see how you react to it. And two, do you really know yourself? And that's another leadership trait too. Okay. Know thyself and seek improvement.
You read this, didn't you?
No, I only saw bits and pieces. I did not read that part.
Because no, you're right there. Because it sounds like a trick question. So they're saying that it's kind of like a trick question, what you just said, basically. It throws you off kind of a little bit. It may feel really awkward for you to talk about your weakness during a job interview when you are supposed to be pitching yourself. When answering these questions about your weakness, you should be careful not to give cliché answers or not close to being your weakness at all. Answers like my greatest weakness is that I'm so much of a perfectionist. I love everything to be organized.
I
don't like that one. No. Why would I say something like that? I mean, that's OCD.
Yeah.
Be self-aware, be truthful, self-improvement / recovery. I don't know. What's your weakness? What's your greatest weakness?
Mine. One is this is what I like to tell people. Like, was what I said at one interview.
I'm interviewing you. Yeah. What is your weakness? What's your greatest?
I came up with something really funny. I'm trying to think of it now. I can't come off the top of my head. But what I do for the job that I have now, when I did my interview, I was like, I have ADHD.
Right.
If I have a lot of tasks, I will start lose focus. And I'm talking about I can quickly regain that because I have the discipline that I learned from the military, what we talked about, my leadership skills, and I can regain my focus. But sometimes if I get a shotgun blast of information, I'm not going to know what to do with it. I'm going to be like a dog chasing a car. By the time I catch it, I don't know what to do with it.
You don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think mine, I always look at that one and I mean, I'm great. I'm just great overall. As Donald Trump says, President Trump, I'm great, man. I'm just great. There's nothing wrong with me. I have no weaknesses.
I'm the best guy you could bring on board.
Best. But no, I believe mine. Sometimes I talk too much. I'm trying to think. I talk too much. I don't know. I don't know how I answer. I haven't been asked that question in so long. I mean, I'll ask it to people, but I've never been asked that question. So if I had to say my weaknesses, yeah, I don't know. I am OCD sometimes. Mm-hmm. I have learned to listen. I've learned to listen because sometimes you just have to stop. Like mm-hmm. you have to stop and just listen to the person, what they're saying, then breathe, and then come back with a response instead of just being while they're talking, interrupt and jump right in there with your thoughts. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to learn about that.
That's also a very important topic too. I think that you just brought up because my girlfriend mentioned it too when she came in. It was. And we teach this at Sonia at Toastmasters too. When you do a speech or when you're talking about something, right. You want to have a pause. And it's another trick too. We learn this in the military. If you get different clearances, you get through a certain training. If you ever get interrogated by the enemy or something like that, you always want to pause for about 2 to 3 seconds before you answer the question. Now you need to do this at every question because if you don't, then you're giving away something. But if you pause and think about what you're going to say, and then say it, your thoughts will be way more articulated when they come out.
Okay. All right. I was trying to listen to what you were saying, but I was triggered. No, it is. I agree with John. All right. I agree. I'll go with that one with you. I'll go on that one. All right. The next one. This is the best. I'm sorry. Everybody knows. Why are you leaving your current job? I am sorry. I don't ask that question because like I told you, I believe you're only leaving your job for a couple of reasons. Your boss sucks. Something's wrong with your management. You've got overlooked over promotions for years. You don't like it anymore. You're not happy where you're at. You're not challenged. Maybe you're not challenged enough. Maybe you're bored.
Yes. Yeah, that's an extremely good one right there. Sometimes people just get bored at work. They don't have enough challenges happening to them. They're doing the same mundane task over and over again, where it just drives them crazy.
No, and here it says you can take a look at these sample reasons to explain. Desire to improve work-life balance. That's a good one. Because you want to work-life balance. You could say, you could go into that subject there saying you really, listen, everybody's changed since COVID of things that they want to do. They've cut back on hours. They like working remote. You wish to learn. That's all right. I like the wording of that. You yearn to take on more responsibility. You wish to take on less responsibility. Why would you take on less responsibility? Wanting to relocate. All right. I mean, there's some real, but if you're in a job interview, everybody knows you're leaving for a reason. Right. So I personally don't go into that. I think as the person talks, again, you're gonna hear that come out. Mm-hmm. I don't know about what you feel on that part. Do you like that question?
No, yes and no. I don't ask it either when I do my interviews. Or when I have the interviewees, I don't ask that question because sometimes it'll dig up something that you really don't want to know about, and they got something else that's happening, and maybe it's like you said, they just left it because, and you don't want to hear them talk bad about somebody else.
That's right there. I was going there because what happens the more you talk, you're going to bring up something like that. Like, listen, the reason if somebody asked me why I was at the company for 10 years and why I left, I'm not afraid to say for that one job, I don't care where I go for the rest of my life. I love the company. I never talk bad about any of the companies that I've left. Never. Because I don't think you should on a professional note. I don't think you should sit there and say something's wrong with your company, especially if it's from you yourself, unless I don't know. I don't think it's good. Yeah. So my point is I had one bad boss, one micromanager in my life, and that's where it was. Mm-hmm. And that's reason right there. Most people understand that. Mm-hmm. Because why do you leave after 10? You see some people that got 20 years out of company and they're leaving.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, in your mind as an interviewer, I'm sure you'd have to be at the same place saying you're thinking it. You're like, wow, you've been with, let's just say FedEx or something for 20 some years and you're applying here. I think I could answer it then. Why? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe that's a good.
Yeah, I would bring something up if I saw something like that on the resume, then right. I would ask that. I wouldn't ask that like right off. It wouldn't be one of my top 5 questions to ask. Yeah. I would probably get into more of a conversation with what we were talking about earlier about the interviewee, trying to make it a conversation. And then I would bring that question up and ask them.
Yeah, because I like I said, the more you read these, and this helps you by reading these anyway, in case you ever have to do an interview. Hey, we got Bill Bradford all the way from Pittsburgh.
Hey, Bill, welcome back.
I know Bill, you got to have some great interview questions. I want you to think, Bill, of one of your best interview questions that you could think of within your career, Bill. And please think of something. I know you will. He's into the trades and everything like that. So I like when I've had Bill on the show, about the younger generation learning about going to trade schools versus if they don't go to college. There's so much money to be made in plumbing, electricity, electrical, all different things like that. The fields, HVAC, it's a lot of stuff to learn on there. But back to these questions, why should we hire you? So I think that one there. I got to say the funny one first. I got to do this funny one. All right, Joel, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? Let's see. Wait, we got Greg here. Hey, Greg, here's a good question for you, Greg. An interview question. If you were an animal, what animal would you be? What would you be? That is one hell of a question.
I love it. This is such a great question.
What would you answer? What are you?
Well, for me, it was what we as I told you before, is I would be the penguin. I'm all dressed up, nice, got my suit on, got the tuxedo going, but I'm sitting there, I'm going to party. I'm going to have a good time. I want to have fun.
I think it's like what you said. You said about it's a question that throws you off.
It is. It can really throw you off if you're not prepared for it. Yeah,
because here it says an elephant trunks are capable of doing many hardcore jobs. So if anybody's listening out there, when you have a question of what kind of animal, I guess I'd like to be an elephant. Dolphins are known for their self-sacrifice and selfishness. Okay. Cows, I didn't know cows compare the similarities by counting oneself as a cow and show their loyalty towards the company they work for. How does a cow freaking work? You feed them to eat them.
Yeah, you feed them, eat them, milk them.
I get the dogs loyal to their person. Lions, yes, that's being leadership. A butterfly, a dove, a peacemaker. That makes sense. Woo, woo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And last, an ant was a hard worker. That's I had to bring that up. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good.
But I'm going to be a lion. Where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years, short term or long term? That is that's actually the next one here.
Nice. Yeah, look at that. He's already ahead of us. He's already
ready. Yeah, Bill. You've been watching, Bill. You've been reading this book, 100 things. But no, that's a good. Where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years? Again, I don't think there's a wrong answer for that. It depends on what you're looking. I think it depends on what the role you're looking for, maybe too.
So I really want to see an interviewee say this. When you ask that question, where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years? I want to say in your shoes.
As a manager, recruiter, anything like that, management. Yeah,
that seems very. It seems very ambitious to me. And I'm like, all right, because I'll feed you. Let's see how hungry you really are.
Yeah, and then your 5 years. I believe, if anybody's going to school, I think going to school, if you're in school or taking classes, I think that's a good answer too. Mm-hmm. Bettering yourself. I don't know what the right, or I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on that.
There isn't, but what I would recommend to most people who are going up for that is make sure you know what your goals are in life. And if you know what your goals are, and they ask that question, where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years? You can easily answer that. Oh, in 5 years, I plan on having, X amount paid off. What you just said, have the degree done, have better, be in charge of something, have anything. It's like you said, there's no wrong answer to it.
Yeah, because it says here, the employer wants to know how long you plan to stay in the position. The employer wants to know if your vision aligns with that of the company. And then Bill says here, that's a common question, but I like to listen closely.
Yeah, that's very good.
Because it says plans about how you would love to take the position of hiring manager in 5 years. You must have read this. And it's so funny, Bill, that the next question that I had was on the same page was so building Google top 100 questions. Strategies about how you would be promoted in a few years. Your inspiration about owning your own business in a few years. I don't know if I'd go there if I was working for somebody, but I don't know. I don't have any plans for the future. I just want a job now. I don't suggest that.
No. I can see that for somebody who's going, it depends on what they're going in for.
Yeah, what you're going in there. And then Greg says there is no right or wrong answer. Interview is looking to simply see how you answer and articulate an awkward topic, maybe how you view yourself.
That's a very good point.
That's a better answer than what you came up with, man. Greg, I'm going to give you that. Greg, that was better. I'm going to say
Greg on the show. You like Greg. Greg's one of my best friends. You'll like him.
You know him?
Yeah, I know Greg. He's one of my best friends. He's a good dude. You'll like him.
Oh, geez. Well, then that just changed it around because you know him. I didn't think you know him because you got him quiet. Well, if you get him quiet on it, that was pretty good. No, that's true though. In all seriousness, I like that how you view yourself. I like that kind of it. How you, if you really look into that, you are telling the person how you're seeing. Listen, I'm the best. I'm great. There's nobody better. Can you imagine saying stuff like that? But in all seriousness, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there, saying if you feel you're really good at what you do, man, I'm going to say it. If you can back it up, say it.
Exactly.
Maybe it's just not me.
If you're a fast learner, can learn on the job real quickly. Yeah, go at it. Like, I can learn this job. Give me 1 month. Boom, I'll be done. Got it.
And you'll be, this one here, while you're leaving your current job, that's the same kind as the other question there.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, that just, again, the main thing it concentrates on about not bad mouthing your previous employer. Because I believe if you go in there and you're going to bad mouth them, what are you going to say about the company there? You know, I had a bad boss, but how I dealt with it was I started my own business. Like it said here, I did. I started my own business. I left, tried something for 2 years. I did that. I had a problem. I solved it. I didn't want, if I was somebody who's asking me one bad boss, everybody knows again what you're talking about. I don't think you have to go real deep into it. You know, I just think as long as solutions, you know, maybe you left something providing a solution of why I don't know. But that,
I think if you start talking negative, that's something that if your interviewee or interviewer or your interviewee starts talking negative about why they left, then you know it's that.
For that, Bill, I'm curious of what do you like to listen for? See, I'm going to interview Bill here. What do you like? What you like to listen closely to the answer? I guess you're looking for things like that. That, like you said, you want to grow with the company.
It's passive listening, or I guess what is it called? Active listening, and listen to what they're actually saying behind. They're saying, you know, what their actual meanings are and everything.
But it also tells you here that you need to research the company. By researching the company, you're going to know the kind of answer for that, because if you don't know the company, it's kind of hard to see yourself there, if that makes there we go, self-confidence. So there you go. That makes sense. No,
that's a good one too. You don't have to walk in there when you do an interview with confidence, because if you don't have confidence, they're going to see right through you.
There you can sit there by your body language, while you're looking, and they're going to know if you've done your research. Listen, when I prepared for a couple positions, man, it does put you in a better spot when you practice these questions. Because a lot of people, when you start to do an interview, a lot of people say to themselves, even when I've interviewed them live on a show, oh, why did I say that? You can't go backwards. You can't go back. And that's why, like, okay, in your mind, you might be talking, but sometimes you got to say, okay, enough, stop. All right, I'm babbling. Either I'm not making sense on something, but I think you learn, you just back down a little bit and just breathe. You know, I think that'll set you up a little bit, because I've had a lot of people say, why did I say that?
I've always walked every interview I did or have done. I've come out there and I'm just always thinking to myself, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Why did I say that? Shut up. You start beating yourself up on your drive home.
Yep, you do. Greg says it's all conversation. You can teach someone the day-to-day task. You can't teach personal integrity.
Yes.
This I'm going to nail it anymore, because I love those words, transferable skills, is I wish that some companies would just overlook. Like the reason I like hiring, I say young, I don't want to say young, anybody from retail, customer service, because they can handle stress. They know how to talk to people. You can take that skill and teach them in that leadership, because a lot of leaders don't have that skill.
Right. Correct. Yeah. It's not something that's actively taught a whole lot. I mean, we learn it in the military. You're taught that. However, going out to, like I said, retailers, they have to know how to do that. People in fast food, they need to learn it. They know how to communicate and stuff, because they have to do it on a daily basis.
This is a good one. Confidence in a good way, not being arrogant. No, I agree. I agree with that, because you could come across, if you're too cocky, You know, if you're too like, again, communication, I think you need to listen. Just listen to that question.
Be humble.
Okay.
I think that instead of being, going there with confidence, but be humble as well.
Be humble as well. That makes sense. All right. This one here, I've never been asked this one. Have you ever been forced to resign? During an interview, it's quite normal for the recruiter to bring up discussions about have you ever been forced? I never would have. If that's one of the top 8, why would you ask, have you ever been forced to resign? And these are mistakes you should avoid. It says, don't lie about the situation that led to the resignation. Do your best to avoid being negative about your experience. This is what you should focus on. Tell the recruiter about what you've learned from the situation and experience molded you into a better person. It's kind of like what I told you, what I left and did, but I wouldn't ask that question.
Yeah, that's that's kind of like a dark subject right there to bring that up, I think, in my opinion, because you want to try to keep the interview still positive too, because you want to stay in the positive limelight as the interviewee and the interviewer.
Yeah, I think that's just taking you down a negative road.
Yeah, exactly.
If anybody asks that.
The background check will bring whatever that is up anyways.
Yeah, that will. Bill says people skills is a huge asset. Listen, don't just talk. That's
right. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're talking about, active listening,
for doing that. He's reading this book. I'm telling you, he's reading the notes. Bill, you're going right along page by page. Look, Bill, we only have this much more to go. So we only have this much many questions that I think we'll be done by around 1 a.m.
Oh, man.
Now this one, this one is something here. Mm-hmm. What do you like least about your job? These are negative questions. I kind of feel like, would you ask that? Like, what do you like least about your job? So
no, you could turn this one around. This is a good turnaround spot right here. So it is a negative question, but you could turn that around. For example, say that you get asked a question.
Right.
Next question, what did you least like about your job? You can say, oh, we had this one task that we had to do. However, I came up with a better solution for us, and we decided to go with that as I presented it to my boss, and we went with a new task, which saved the company X amount of dollars, X amount of time, and improved efficiency by X amount of percentage.
Okay. You read this too. No, it does. It says just kind of what you're saying there, and manage the situation to decide to move, but touch on what you did not like and focus on things that you did. Touch on what you did not like and focus on things you did not like about the task. No, I don't like that either. I like your.
Yeah, I don't like that answer.
I don't. Just because it's on the internet here doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
No, I'm just old, been around a while. No, but that's true. I mean, Bill's been in the business for a while. So there again, I think once you've evolved, as I say, get older myself, even, I think you hear those key words. You hear like the young lady I had on last night. Mm-hmm. You watched the show and she was interviewing, and did she give the perfect answers? No, but she came across caring, going to work early, never missing a day's work. Right. Yeah. So right when she said that, in my mind, as I'm listening, I'm like, oh my God, okay, now you got a person that's not going to call off.
Yep.
And other keywords that she said that's what I wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they're the kind of successful candidates that you want to pull in. You want to take them and teach them what because I believe a lot is if I hire somebody on my team, man, I want to make them successful. So if I can teach them something, they should be, I don't know where I'm going with that. I lost my focus.
No, I got you, David. So when you bring them on your team and everything, you want to teach them, you want to coach them and get them to where your level is at.
Correct.
Hire or help boost.
Yeah, because you want them, I call it turn the page.
Yeah.
If you were to leave your job tomorrow, I always say the leads that I've taught are all in those positions now. You just turn the page. They're there. You're gone. Mm-hmm. So you've done your job. You've done your job of setting them up for leadership.
And not they use you as reference. They have a good, you have good rapport with them. So if anything happens, and say something happens to you, and they're like, dude, you help me. Let me help you.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to go. I like this question kind of. How would your last boss describe you? I think, again, like Bill was saying about walking the talk kind of in a way, you should be able to come out with you should know some of the things, how to describe you. Mm-hmm. Because what would a boss say about Joel? Well, Joel's been in the military for 18 years. He's on time every day. You know what I mean? You're looking for those things that he does what I ask. You know, he doesn't give me a hard time. But he'll come back and give a suggestion that might work. You know what I mean? Is that what do you like about that one?
Yeah, no, I like that. What would your boss say about you? And of course, I think everybody's going to say the same thing. They're going to say something positive about themselves, because this goes back to that same question. Tell us about your strengths. And talk about show me your tell me about your weaknesses. Tell me about your strengths. Tell me what your boss will say about you. Obviously, they're going to talk about what their strengths are.
With the strengths.
Yeah, I think maybe you can go back. This is another good question. If they can't really think of what their strengths are, that's a good question to follow up with. Okay, well, how would your boss describe you?
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh yeah, hard worker. I got great work ethic, and I come to work on time. Like, okay, so there's your strengths.
Especially given, you've been given task. They talk a lot about you want to provide your new employer, potential employer, with solutions that you had a problem with. Like some of the questions that we're not going to relate tonight. Listen, these are basic interview questions.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, naturally, if you're in like IT, you're in healthcare, you're in all these different type of roles. There's a lot of different type of questions. They're going to be asking you about softwares. They're going to ask you about everything. So this is a general interview questions that I think a lot of people could use to up to a certain level. But again, that's going real deep diving into some of the interview questions. But that one there, I kind of like it. These are behavioral interview questions, they call them.
Those are good.
And like, give me an example of an important goal which you had set in the past, and tell me about your success in reaching it. I always say, have something in your mind that you really write down what your accomplishments. Just write them down.
Yep, exactly.
And you'll be able to remember that if you're asked that question, kind of, because you want to think of the most positive thing that you might even had a problem with, but you solved it.
Well, some of the accomplishments, you can look right on your resume and see the stuff that you've accomplished too. You should have that stuff that you have accomplished on your resume and be able to tell a little bit more of a story than what that little bullet point is.
That's exactly. And you need to be able to walk the talk.
Exactly.
You got to feel confident. That's where the confidence level comes in of when you're talking about it. Because what do you suggest if you didn't know an answer to this question? What's your out?
For that question,
they're hard. If you don't know, if you haven't practiced some questions, some of these questions here, if they were to ask you, because if they go on the internet, top 100 questions, hey, there we go. That question there, I always have stories prepared. I always have.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, I always do too. I'm trying to think. Like, I've never gone into an interview not too prepared for that one. That's what I
mean. So I just think you're really there. Is what Bill was saying. You're going to know self-confidence if you didn't study, if you didn't look at research the company, what they do.
Yeah.
I always gear it to whereas if you usually stay in the same trade, but if you got that success story, stick with that in your mind and write down before an interview all these kind of answers. And when you go in there, at least you're prepared to, because I don't know if you can't give an example of a goal.
I would think maybe, depending where you live or, you got a car.
Yeah.
You had to drive here, right? So, hey, how did you get that car? That would be a good fallback answer. If you really had no idea.
This one here is close. If you use the word star, you said car, right? Thanks, Joel. Yep, star car. Because if you remember star, it includes situation, task, action, and result.
Okay. There you go.
Again, star method. Just remember the word star.
Yeah, there you go.
Situation, task, action, result. So it gives you your situation, your task that you probably where you're going to do to achieve it, your action, what you did, and the results.
Sounds like SMEAC when we were in the military. Situation, mission, execution, admin, logistics, and command and control.
All right, here we go. There we go. I wouldn't even understand a word you just said. All right, this one again. Describe some times when you were not very satisfied or pleased with your performance. These questions are.
That's a good.
They're
one.
Really some of them are negative, like in a way, But when you hear this, so describe some times when you were not very satisfied or pleased with your performance. So what they're looking for Sample answers. When I got my first job as a marketer, I was given a target for the month. I was overwhelmed by what I was supposed to achieve, so I simply went out to get customers. I thought at the end of the month, I noticed I was only one in a team that did not meet up with their target. I felt really bad. That's just a basic story. Make sure the example you're giving is relevant. Talk about your previous role. I don't know. That's another one.
That's a tough one, but I would also that's something good to go into. You could definitely go into that. I would follow up with, this is what I did to, hey, this was my error. This is what I did to make it better.
Yeah. Pick yourself something out. Again, you need to prepare for questions like this.
This got a good thing.
Yeah. Greg says it should be something not on the resume, a story if overcoming an obstacle. So maybe something involving a relationship with a coworker you don't agree with, something that painting you as a problem solver. That's again, perfect. What to look for. I think you're in here. They're saying too, you're just looking for somebody that's not going to complain about something, somebody that there's a problem, you need to fix it. And that word story, again, story, people love stories. It's just another new word from work-life balance and everything COVID. Tell a story and you're going to get people to listen.
Yep, exactly.
You're going to have that interview person saying, okay, that's not a bad. This one, tell me about a time when you worked, it's getting closer about which supervisors. Tell me about a time when you worked under close supervision or extremely loose supervision. How do you handle that? If I didn't prepare for questions like this, it'd be very hard right off your bat for me to think of something. I need to really read the question, think about it. And I don't think you should always think, what are they thinking? You know what I mean? Like if you're looking at an interview,
you can't do that.
You can't sit there and say, I wonder what he wants to know or hear. I don't think you can do that. You don't want to do that.
No.
Because if it's not you, it's going to come out the way you're wording, the way you're talking about it.
Exactly.
You're going to make something up and it's just not going to it's probably not going to make sense to the interviewer when you're saying you're making something up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. If you start trying to, spitball and trying to make it up, it's not going to come out well at all. You got to be able to articulate that and think it out. That's where that whole, give yourself that pause, 2 to 3 seconds, but also have that planned in the back of your brain housing group to know what's going to happen with that.
When it's not going to happen. And like I said, something not on your resume. Stuff like that won't be on your resume. And you can really talk it. Because here I like this one. Now, tell me about a time you disagreed with a decision that was made at work. But listen, at the end of the day, I tell my managers all the time, whatever my boss, doesn't matter. Listen, if you're coming out with something, you're telling me we're going to do it this way. I might think of a different way. I might say it, but at the end of the day, if that's what I'm told to do, that's what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter. If you tell me, Dave, no, we're not going to do it that way. I might give you a little bit of, keep saying no, but listen, think about it for a while. Think about that. Because if you disagreed, listen, that's me. Decision you disagree with, why you disagree, the decisions, the result of the disagreement. But what are your suggestions you offer to fix it? What have you done? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know about that one. I like it.
Yeah, that one could be good. I can give perfect examples of myself. I was talking with one of my friends today. We were talking about something that was going on in the office. I was like, look, I'm going to execute the mission, but afterwards I'm asking, why are we doing it like this?
Right.
It's like, hey, how about next time we do something like that? That's one of those things, you can always use that kind of example. Like, hey, look, I'm going to listen to what the boss says, but afterwards I'll ask that question. I'm like, why? Hey, cool. Mission done. Why do we do it like that? Because it killed me.
This is I like these questions, some of them, and
I'm
glad I'm reading them because not that I ever want to use them again, but you always look at it and say, "Woo!" You got to brush up on some. A lot of these other ones, like, can you give an example of a time you solved a problem? That's easy. That's a basic one.
Oh yeah, that's.
Can you? That one I don't really care about that one there. I only got 58 more to go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Can you give an example of a time when you experienced difficulty at work? That's the same question. That's feeding into the same.
It's worded differently.
This one, can you tell me about a time that you disagreed with your supervisor? I think you could, if you had something, again, you need to talk about your solutions, what you did.
Exactly. How did you overcome that?
What you did. A great book is The 5 Distinctions of a Team. Talks about the difference between agreement and alignment. I like that. Agreement and alignment. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to be, that makes total sense. I like that.
You might not agree with them, but you need to be aligned with them.
that you're lying with them, and that makes total sense, Greg. There, when people write things, I look at the 2 words now between agreement. Well, 4 between agreement and alignment. The other part there, but it's still they're the kind of things that I look at, like how do I answer that, or how do I align myself with the management too. But the disagree with your supervisor, I think this question sounds like a trap when interviews ask this question. But I don't.
It can be. It can be with like the same answer I just described earlier.
Yeah.
I disagree. I still executed mission, but then I came back and I'm like, look, we could have done this differently. Or
what would you do if you had a bad boss? Oh, don't ask me that one. I'm gonna get all friggin' wound up now. Yeah. No, you know what? I think that question there is, what would you do if you had a bad boss? Listen, I'm always said on this show what had happened to me about just one bad boss. I think what I've learned, and the military helped me. The military helps you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody that usually everything I'm told to do, I do it. If you're my boss and that's the way it is, I'm sorry, it's your business, whatever. This is the way I'll give you suggestions. But when you have that micromanager, what do you do? I think you really need to be honest and come out and nip it in the butt.
Yes.
If you're going home every night and you're having nightmares and you're having health issues, you're having problems with your family, all because of one person. In the past, I wouldn't say this in an interview, but people are listening now. If they listen, I would be like, go to your HR director earlier. Go to your man. Talk to your team about issues that you're having, because you can nip it in the butt, and this way you shouldn't have to feel that way. Now, would I say that in an interview? I don't know.
For me, if I got asked that question, being the interviewee, that would raise a red flag to me.
Yeah. Oh, if somebody was talking negative about a boss, or
it's like, what would you do if you had a bad boss?
Right.
That would raise a huge red flag to me if I was the interviewee. Just given my past of different jobs and everything, just somebody asked that, I'm like, whoa, it was like, is this guy, who's my supervisor? Are they notorious?
Right.
And that's when I would go as being the interviewee, start asking my questions. Hey, what's the turnaround rate at your place? What's the morale like on the?
Oh, you want to come back with a question?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about coming back with questions.
Yeah, that would immediately get me getting those questions ready to go and fire it up.
Yeah, that might. You're talking about the interviewer. Like if I was interviewing somebody, you're gonna bring that question back to me when I ask that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If somebody asked me, if I was the interviewee and somebody asked, what would you do with a bad boss? that would immediately throw red flags in my head. I'm like, why are you asking me this question? Because again, we talked about it before. We want to be positive. You want to keep these questions positive for the most part, as us being interviewers. But if the interviewee, if somebody asks me like a negative question like that, that's immediately going to have me asking. I would have questions. I already go in already prepared with questions too, but that'd be like at the forefront of my question asking.
All right, I had no clue what you were just saying, but I'll agree. I was listening, but then I got this question up here with Colleen, and I'm reading her other thing, and see, I'm like my mind, it starts to go. I think it needs to.
No worries. ADHD.
I'll just go there. Colleen says, "Here we go. HR was not helpful when I went to them," and then she had said exactly. There again, do you talk about a spot? Do you bring it up? But I think it's the way you approach it, and if I said something like that, if I gave it a reason, I think if I was to be getting angry when I was saying it, or just your body language, no, you just need to be more professional. I always say, listen, HR scares the living hell out of me. They always have it. I don't care who you are. HR scares the living hell out of me, no matter what age, because they're never calling Dave in to say, hey, Dave, you've been doing a great freaking job. It's always something negative or something we've heard. But and to put that seriously though, if HR doesn't know that it's broke, I always say they can't fix it.
Exactly. You're right.
Can't fix it.
100%.
And Colleen, that there too is I felt the same way, here, God, I think I'm putting myself through a little what do you call it? Coaching here, but that's always, again, look how I can bring up conversation. I think that's what a lot of it has to do with it.
Exactly. It all has to lie in with that. You got to have that conversation and make the interviewee comfortable coming in.
Yeah. What you're doing there. So that was a tough question, man. See,
it was.
Look at my body language. I'm moving all over the place. Oh God, it just makes a great story though, because
it does. Absolutely.
I like to help people what I did wrong or what I've done differently. But somebody asked me that in a question, then they're going to get a whole mouthful.
Yeah.
How can you describe a good work environment? I like that.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to do. It's whatever you think is a good work environment for yourself.
Yeah, especially with the team. Everybody likes teamwork, achieve success, taking advantage of different abilities and skills of the team. And I like that because I think that what they're saying there is you want to be a team member, but listen, when I have a team, I wish I had certain skills of each person. I'd be like, I'll take the skills from Colleen there. I'll take from Bill, you know what I mean? Like from everybody, because that's their strengths and maybe it's not your weakness.
Yep, exactly.
But I could picture you answering this one good. You've been in the military for a long time. Right? All right. A couple more. What do you describe as a satisfying job?
I don't know. Again, I think that's just like the other question you just asked.
Yeah. Well, let's see, Colleen. I learned if I had a bad boss, I'd find a new job. Well,
that's honest.
Colleen, you're being honest, and I feel you because you got me going on this question. I'm still like, all right, David, get out of that tit for tat. My wife would call it tit for tat.
Yep.
One bad boss, but I'll get out of that. And then Greg says transparency. So
yeah, he's right.
I like that. That's being honest and just I think a lot of those questions. Let me try to find one. This would be good for you. Ooh. What does motivation mean to you? What does motivation mean?
Oh, that's good. Because I can see that as being two ways too. Motivation is the driving force. What keeps you going. What makes you want to keep coming to the job. What keeps forcing you to do really, really well. And then again, bad motivation can stop you in your tracks from what you're doing. Stop you from coming in. It was like, oh, I'm only going to do the bare minimum.
That's perfect. You did good on that one, man.
Thanks.
You'd have like about an 8 or a 9 on that one. I don't know if you read that one, but it's almost word for word, right? If you didn't read that one, and then it says avoid stating things that are responsible as things that motivates you. Avoid lying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, lying for what motivates you. Again, if you're hit with these questions cold, it could be somebody that just Googles these questions, and then you're like, oh boy.
Yeah, you get thrown off. And again, you get to see how the person reacts.
Let's see. Let's do about 3 more here.
Okay.
I like this one. How do you describe success in your job?
Oh, I've been asked that one. That was a good one. Oh,
you've been asked that?
That's for other. I guess Colleen's talking about the other question.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, she's still on the bad point. See, Colleen, that was you. You got me going tonight. Now I'm going to be talking about that all night long.
You got to bring her.
No, I'm going to go back to that question all the time about a bad boss. But no, how do you describe success? Listen, I think I answer it in my team. I think as a team, I love seeing like when you configure something out, when you got something coming up in staffing, you got a big goal. You need 150 people hired. What are you doing to get to it? What it feels like afterwards is the feeling of success. Because if you were like, man, we pulled it off, we had our action plans all put out there, as our team, we had it set up for every week, what we were supposed to get done. And that works. An action plan works. So you can tell that I would probably go that route.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love it. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
And it's going to vary between person to person and their experiences too.
Yep. How would you answer it?
Me, success, it's the same thing. You got to have an action plan. You got to be able to, create, what the mission is, be able to accomplish a mission. I don't want it to be like an easy mission or something like that. Like, oh, here, pack this box or something. I want something to be like, hey, you got X amount of stuff that's got to get done. You got to take your team and make sure that the team actually completes it. We're going to hit hit a certain profit margin this month. See if we can get that. If you hit it, then it's something to be accomplished. You can go home for the weekend and have a beer.
And that's what Greg says here. Different for everyone. To make it's having real goals, knowing you did everything you could to hit them.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer.
Yeah, I don't think in there. Now that leads up to the next question I don't see it. Some of these I've never asked or I've never been asked. What is your definition of failure? There again, these are just questions that could pop up in an interview. How do you set your job goals there again? How do you deal deadlines, multiple tasks? I think you're getting into a lot more, again, deadlines and action plans, what you're talking about here. And all these answers could almost be answered in one. But he's right you did everything to hit him. And if you don't hit him, it's okay to say you didn't hit something, but you learned from it.
Exactly.
What are you going to do differently next year? What are you going to do differently next year? That's the big thing. You know,
and did what was hard. We got to bring Greg on. Greg's got to be your next guy.
Geez, we have 4 people on tonight. You know, he's got all the words there for it too. But appreciate it, Greg. Let's do one more here. One more. Oh, you know what I wanted to talk about? Let's do this. So you were talking about table topics questions.
Oh yeah.
All right, now hear out. I never heard of this before, so I didn't know about this. First attempt in learning, take notes and do better next time.
Yeah, she's right.
That's what I mean. Especially even preparing for the interview, you know, that's the way I look at it too, is taking the notes, what you've learned, and you actually, when you're studying that question, write everything down. Write all your accomplishments down, because you're going to be able to, when you're hit with that question, you're going to be able to pull off of there, especially with virtual interviews, because you can have your stuff right down here, you know, you get asked a question, you could look down here and that's how I'm going to answer it, versus if you're going face to face.
Yeah, and there's nothing saying that you can't go into an interview with your own notes too.
I've never had anybody do that. Have you?
I had one person come in with notes when I was interviewing, and I'd ask questions. He goes, "Oh yeah," he flipped. Was like, "Oh yeah, I had this written down because I wanted to go over it and not forget it." I was like,
"Yeah," especially if you want to ask the questions back. I've had that to where they've come in and they've asked questions about the job naturally and about different things. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think you can sometimes interview the interviewer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's just what I was saying about earlier when they said about Bad Boss. Like, oh, I'm immediately going to ask questions after this one.
Yeah, and I agree. No, I agree. But let's finish it up with this, and this is good for another show too. But you told me about tonight about tabletop questions. Now, Colleen and Greg, if you got to Google 365 table topic questions. And I'm going to read some off, but they go like this, and then I'll have Joel explain what they do. When was the last time you tried something new? Who do you sometimes compare yourself to? What is the most sensible thing you've ever heard of someone say? Who gets you excited about life? What life lessons did you learn the hard way? What do you wish you spent more time doing from 5 years ago? So I could read all of them all over again, but you brought that up. Explain what tabletop questions are.
So one of the things I do Toastmasters, which helps improve speech craft, leadership abilities, and different other abilities. And it's a free club. Anybody can join. It's usually open to the public. There's always one nearby. I highly recommend people to go to these. It can also build up your confidence when it comes to talking to people. Some people get extremely shy when it comes to interviews, talking in front of groups.
So you're sitting at a table. All of you are just sitting at a table. And somebody calls you up, right? You go up in front of everybody and you ask these questions.
So what we have is the Table Topics Master. Who'll have a list of questions like what you do. And I've done it before. I had to Google something real quick. I'm like, oh yeah, 365 table topic questions. And you go up there and you ask, hey, who's next on Joel's fun games of table topics? And then the next contestant will come on down. And I'd ask one of those questions. I give them a number like 1 to 20. And I ask them that question. They have to spend 1 to 2 minutes talking about that. The time frame is had to be longer than a minute, but shorter than 2 minutes.
So it's like an elevator speech, kind of like
exactly.
You're going to answer it.
Exactly. The main goal of that is to help your improvisation, which is also good for interviews. So when you get asked these questions, you'll be able to expand your mind a little bit to answer on these questions.
Bill's said all 3 of my kids took a Toastmaster class.
Yeah.
How do I not know about that? How the hell do I not know? Because I'm telling you, I'm going to print these off.
Yeah,
they're great interview questions.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of it's taking them and making them sound nice, like just different way of answering, because you're going to come up with almost the same answers in a way. So so you went to the meeting, you all discussed things, you asked questions, and the purpose of it is you just learn to speak in front of a whole group.
Right. You try to learn speaking in front of a whole group, but also build your confidence in how well I don't want to say how well you can do improv, but it is basically that. It's how well you can improve yourself and be able to speak intelligently on a question. And you can make up the answer. It doesn't, at least in Toastmasters, you can make it up. It doesn't have to be like, hey, what was your 5 worst fears? Oh my God, my worst fear is the ceiling. I'm afraid it might fall on me. Something. You could talk about that, and you could talk about a previous answer as well. Like one time I talked about Mercury going into retrograde one time for a question.
What the heck?
Yeah, but it helps you with your improv, helps you expand your mind a little bit. It helps you just build that confidence in talking from somebody and talking
Yeah,
from.
and then I like how you say that, because then here's a couple more. What are you most grateful for? Is stealing a feed, starving a child wrong? What do you want most? Are you more worried about doing things right or doing things wrong? What has life taught you recently? What is one thing you most like to change about the world? And Colleen, that's called tabletop discussion. That's again tabletop discussion, right?
Yeah.
And you Google that, and it gives me 1 to 8 pages of it, and you're talking hundreds of pretty cool questions. But I think that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and since I was doing from doing table topics in general has greatly helped me out with interviews, because it helps you think. You think on your feet. You're able to answer the question, and not to mention, like, if you have a job too, you just have a normal job. Your boss comes up to you with a question, and it just totally takes you off blue. Like, say you're in a break room, boss comes up, "Hey, where's those TPS reports?" And you're like, "Oh, the TPS reports. Yeah, those were over here." Or, Bob was supposed to ship them, and you can actually think about what the answer is. Even the real answer, you can think about it real quickly and give him the answer he needs. Or I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Totally forgot it. I'll totally get that done." And you're not like stumbling and going,
So you can learn from that. You can learn from all those type of experiences. And Bill says there were also theater classes for several years. Great for self-confidence.
Absolutely.
That again, and I didn't learn about that, Bill, till tonight, so now I'll be reading these things all the time. I'm going to do a show on it. I want to do a show on it, tabletop questions, but awesome. I really want to spend
the round robin with Kenny.
What's that? Oh, you know what? Yeah, Bill, while we're on this cut, let me get Bill here first. Bill, do me a favor and message Kenny. We'd like to have a roast for Kenny. He's not on the show tonight for some reason. He'll be on somebody else's show, I guarantee it. We want to get him on as a guest, and I want to have yourself. I want to have like 6 to 8 of us. I think we can have 10, so 9 people that I've had on the show. I want to have like a roast for Kenny. So Bill, awesome. Message him and say, "Hey Dave, hey Bill, when you going? Hey Kenny, when you going on Dave's show to be roasted?" That would be a great show. See, he will.
It would be awesome.
Will. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he would be. I bet a person like that you get to know could answer questions like that right off the top.
Absolutely.
My youngest is 19. Wish I would have thought of that. Yeah, I think it's great. Okay, I'll speak with him about it. Great job. All right, sir. Well, we've done our second show now. That's 1 hour. We're at 1 hour, so I think we can call it a night. That went pretty quick, but
yeah,
I enjoyed the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, David. It's been really fun. I always
went only that much. I still have all this to go yet. So
the leadership, your leadership part 2 too as well.
Yeah, these are just. I enjoyed the show because this here. Listen, for the people that we met tonight. It really tells you for your interview, you're going to be nervous at all what it is, but you got to be prepared. If I had to say anything to end it, for myself, as I say, you got to be prepared for what you're doing, and just learn from it. If you said something wrong, remember the next time when you go to another interview, you don't want to just try to learn from that interview. If you didn't get the job, maybe you said something, think back and then change it.
Absolutely.
So I think that we both agree on that. So, sir, it's been a great night, and I'll talk to you for a minute after this. And sir, you worked for a living, right?
That's right.
You were an NCO, right? You were an NCO, right? Okay.
Staff NCO, yeah.
All right, because I wasn't an officer. I was a corporal. I was only my highest, so that was it there. So, all right, I'll talk to you right after this. Good night, everybody. Thanks for everybody for being on the show.
Everybody.
Yep.